Hi friends, how are we doing? I am, whoops, I just turned my volume all the way down. Didn't quite want to do that. Oh, there we go. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, I can see people are joining. Good. I haven't talked to you guys in forever. It's been about a month, and let me tell you, it was a wonderful month. In February, I turned 33, which I have a little piece of dog hair on my tongue. That's normal. It was so much fun. I got to hang out and not really do anything. It was a COVID-safe birthday. But I did get to go to the art museum and have a nice little quiet semi-private tour, which was fun, and got to see some, thank you, Carrie, I appreciate that. I got to see some really cool different art pieces. Anytime I get to see textiles and art and all that kind of stuff, it makes me so happy. So, along with that, I did a whole lot of filming. We are still, I think we're on episode 3 or 4 of the Gothic Rose Afghan Crochet Along. Where's my Gothic Rose Afghan? I think it's, oh, I was using it last night in bed. It's in my bedroom. I forgot to grab it. But if you guys don't know, I designed a beautiful Afghan that I'm so incredibly excited about. And we're doing a crochet along on Annie's Creative Studio. So if you're looking to join a crochet along, you can totally still join us. The videos will be there forever. So I started working on that. I've been filming a whole bunch of Annie's Creative Studio episodes, which you've probably seen them coming out. And I just started filming our next crochet along, which is a 5-part crochet along. It's another Afghan. I didn't design this one. I just get to teach it. And that's the fun part, because sometimes I love designing things, but I really, really love being able to just work from someone else's pattern as well. So, yeah, all right. What else? I think that's it. I think we're all caught up. I am really excited because today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys a few different ways of joining crochet motifs. Do you guys love crochet motifs? I'm talking like really cool granny squares. I actually just did this one for, I don't remember, I think this was for the Chili Penguins blanket, but this was a really cool crochet motif. It's actually a rectangle. It's like a big rectangle square, and then you put granny stitches all the way around. How cool is that? So I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways of joining crochet motifs. And that's because I love making Afghans. I absolutely love making just pieces that are made up of smaller pieces. Motifs are great. Motifs are great for travel and for just kind of crocheting as we go. And even though we're not really going a whole lot of places nowadays, it's still great to have a project if you want to go from the bedroom to the living room, right? So I also think that they're really great because you can get really creative with your color choices, and you can make crochet pieces that are just, they're incredibly beautiful. So I'm going to show you how to do a whip stitch join today. I'm going to show you how to do a slip stitch join and a single crochet join. So if you have some motifs laying around and you want to just like try it out with me, you can do that. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm trying to find, do you guys have one of these? A bag that's just full of every crochet hook you own, because you don't want to put it back in the spot that they're supposed to go. But then when you need something, like a tapestry needle, and you hope to goodness that there's one in the bottom because you didn't grab one from your office before you started your live video. That's where I am today. Oh, so I started getting really obsessed with puzzles, and I stayed up way too late last night working on a new puzzle, and I just can't stop. And so I had to have an extra cup of coffee this morning, which I don't normally do. So I'm in that place of still tired, but kind of wired. You know, it's a great place to be in. All right, so we are going to start with our single crochet joins. We're going to get rid of this giant collection of crochet hooks that I really need to get organized, y'all. I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to kind of look at that. And I think I want to show you a bonus. I know I only said 3. I kind of want to show you how to do a really cool join as you go. Do you guys want to see a join as you go technique that I think you'll love? If you do, leave a comment below. All right, I'm going to flip the camera around. It's going to look a little willy wonky here for a minute, but it's okay. We're going to go down, and you're going to see me real close. Then we're going to flip the camera around. Yay! All right, so let's start with these 2 wonderful motifs. So these were actually a part of a kit that I received from, I think this was Annie's Caring Crochet, and this was an armchair caddy, which was a lot of fun to do. But I thought these would work out really, really well for the purposes of this video. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a bit of yarn and place a slip knot on my hook. So let's start with a slip stitch seam. So slip stitch seams are great if you really want stability. When you're joining motifs or any type of crochet, and you're working across the row, if you know that this section of crochet is going to get a large amount of kind of wear and tear, let's say you're doing a baby blanket, and you know that they're gonna drag it around with them everywhere, slip stitch seam is perfect. If you're making a sweater, and this is maybe your shoulder seam, you're going to want to work a slip stitch seam because it's going to be much stronger. It's really important to choose the right seam for the right job, and that's primarily because crochet is made up of knots. While crochet doesn't necessarily stretch a whole lot horizontally, it has much more stretch vertically. And if this is going to be somewhere, let's say on your body, such as the shoulder, where it can stretch vertically, using a seam that's going to be much more stable, such as a slip stitch seam, is going to make sure that your piece stays around for years to come. I would advise against using something like a whip stitch seam along here, which is where you just sew them together. And that's because in the end, the whip stitch can come out, it can loosen up, the yarn can fray, it can break, and then you're left with a big old hole in your work. Nobody wants that, right? All right, so easiest method I find when joining these 2 sections is first to say a prayer that you have the same amount of stitches on the top as you do the bottom, because we all make mistakes, and I don't even know if I have the right number of stitches here, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna go to my corner, and these motifs have 5 double crochets in the corner. Now, I'm not going to start in the corner stitch. I'm actually going to start, I'm not going to start in the center stitch of that corner. I'm going to start in the stitch that is 1 stitch to the left. All right? Then I'm gonna grab my next motif, and I'm gonna move it up a little bit so you can see. And again, I'm going to find the center stitch, which is right here, and I'm going to insert my hook completely through the stitch. And I'm working, of course, from right to left because I'm right-handed. So I'm holding both of my motifs together. I have my hook through the same stitch in the corner. And my slip knot is towards the thumb rest. And that's because I'm going to pull through and then I'll have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull this first loop through that slip knot part. So that way my slip knot actually becomes part of the seam, all right? Now, there's a few different ways you can seam. You can go through both of the stitches, pull through, and work a slip stitch. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. Let me do a few of these. All right. So if you do it like that, what you end up with is, looks like I-cord. Now, if you've never done I-cord before, it's a string of, or it's a section of yarn that looks like a knitted tube. If you were to continue to do this, you would end up with this really pretty, it would almost look like piping around each of your motifs. So, and Carol just asked if she can view this later. Yes, this is going to be uploaded on the Annie's Facebook page, and we'll put this on Instagram too, depending on where you like to watch. So this is going to create kind of like a piped edge, which is really, really cool. Now, let's say you want to do, well, first, let's talk about chain spaces. No matter what, you're going to run into chain spaces. This is a chain 2 space. So how do you work a join in a chain 2 space? You can do one of 2 things. If you want to keep going with your slip stitch, you can actually just go into the chain 2 space and slip stitch. The other option is to go into the chain on the front square and into the chain on the back square, and then pull through like that. Now, I'm going to work a slip stitch into this double crochet, and I'm actually just going to pull out a little bit here so I can show you how to join and work that same slip stitch join, but a little different. So we're going to find that same stitch. This time we're only going to go into the back loop. Now, because we have these wrong sides together, I'm going to find that same stitch, which is right here, and I'm going to go into what technically is a back loop of that back motif, but it looks like a front loop to me because it's right here. So what you should see is the back loop of both motifs on your hook and your slip knot. And then you just do what we did before and pull through. Then, only working through the back loops, continue to work across. Now here's the dealio with this particular seam. Unfortunately, a lot of us crocheters have a tendency to be really, really tight slip stitchers. And you can already see that I'm a little too tight here. I can just tell this isn't going to sit very well. I'm gonna lay it down though. It does create a really pretty seam. I absolutely love this. But unfortunately, if you're too tight, it'll cause your motifs to kind of shrink in, and there's no way to fix it. You can try to block it out, but it's just not going to work. So in that case, try to go up 1 to 2 hook sizes when you're doing a slip stitch seam. It sounds a little crazy, and it sounds like it's going to turn out kind of ruffled and wonky, but it won't, I promise. It's just going to loosen up this stitch enough to make it lay nice and flat. So if I were using, let's say I did these in a 5mm hook, I would actually go up to a 6mm. That 1mm is not a lot, but it's enough. It's enough to really create a nice seam there. Now you can build on this. You can do a few different methods. You can continue with slip stitches, or if you want to get kind of crazy, you can, I'm going to rip these out and go back. You can try single crochets. So again, go into the back loop and then the other back loop, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, and pull through 2. So here we're doing the same exact thing, but instead of slip stitching, we're just doing a single crochet. Now that single crochet seam is going to be just as strong as a slip stitch seam, but it is going to have a little bit more give and it's going to look a little bit different. So you can see how it looks different. You get a more raised look. So actually, if I hold it up, you can see the stitches there, and see, it's kind of difficult, but see how that seam is a little lifted up there? So you get a little more of a bump. Now, I'm a stickler for using a single crochet through the back loop seam on most of my projects. That's because I like the way it looks. I like when there's a raised seam, especially on the front of my work. I don't like there to be seams on the back. And that's because when you're using this, if you imagine that this is the back of your Afghan or blanket, it creates a nice flat kind of feel. And I like that. I don't like there to be bumps on the wrong sides of my Afghan, all right? So those are two methods. We covered slip stitch and we covered single crochet. Let's cover join as you go. Now, join as you go is a little bit different. I'm still on camera. Just give me 1 second to grab this. So I'm going to be using these two kind of rectangle motifs here. Now, what I would normally do if I weren't doing join as you go is I would just butt these up together, and I would use the same kind of seam. I would either do a slip stitch seam or a single crochet seam. Totally up to you. But one of the great things about doing a border like this, which is technically, we like to call it a granny stitch, but it's a double crochet cluster, is that you're able to work a join as you go seam that is pretty seamless and it looks really great. So let me show you. Now I'm going to show you on half of this because that way I can show you what it looks like when it's not join as you go and when it is join as you go. So what you would do is you would have your first motif done, and then you get your second motif. Now ideally, I would start here, like I said, but we're going to match up the chain 1 spaces. And essentially where we're going to join is in those chain 1 spaces. So what I'm going to do is, before I start my next cluster, I'm going to insert my hook from back to front through the motif, the green motif, into that chain 1 space. I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'll have 2 loops on my hook, and I'm just going to essentially slip stitch. Then I'm going to come back down and work my next cluster, which is 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, I'm going to find my next chain space, go in there, and slip stitch. Then find where I need to work my next stitch and work 3 double crochets. And I'm going to just repeat that all the way across until I get to the end of my work. Whoops. Just slipped right off the hook there. And again, we'll go in there. Now, because here I'm just meant to join, I'm going to join into the top of my cluster. And look at how perfect that is. It creates a beautiful seamless seam that is incredibly strong, and it's super pretty. You don't have to worry about seaming at the end. You don't have to worry about weaving in ends. You just complete each motif and join them the same way by just slip stitching into those chain spaces. Now this will only work on individual pieces that have chain stitches in them, so you can do those slip stitches. So for example, let's say with these 2 motifs that we just looked at, I could technically join these I could have, when I'm working my very last round on this motif here, I could have joined just in these chain spaces and in the corners. Now, it would not be a strong seam if I'm only having 4 places in which that seam is taking place, but it would be great for a shawl. It would be great for kind of any kind of piece that's not going to get a whole lot of wear and tear. I wouldn't just have 4 join points if I was doing, let's say, an Afghan or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera back around. Here we go. I'm back. Ooh, I'm bright. So that's kind of, those are 3 different methods. I showed how to do a slip stitch, I showed how to do a single crochet, and I showed how to do a join as you go. Now, these can be used in a bunch of different ways. I'm actually looking at my Afghan shelf over there. These can be used in a bunch of different ways. Like I said, from Afghans to garments, to shawls, really kind of anything where you have to join motifs together, you can choose to work different kinds of joins. And there's a ton out there. Join as you go is a favorite because you're not having to cut the yarn and rejoin. You're able to just kind of continue working and you get this really great seam. So that's my favorite. I do that a lot. I did it on, I have a Afghan pattern on my website. I think it's called Sandy Shores or something. I can't remember. But that's what I would do. Charlene asked, how do you join the corners with the attach as you go? So depending, like for example here, this has this has 2 3 double crochet clusters, and in the center is that chain space. So I would join kind of in that chain space like that. Now you can do that after with a single stitch. Again, remember, you're going to be working all the way around. I stopped halfway just to show you the difference. So my round started here. What I would do is work my 3 double crochet cluster, and then I would join these 2 together right there. Then I would continue working all the way around. And then when I got to this corner here, I would join these 2 together in that chain space, like I showed you, then all the way across there, back to here, and I would join my yarn there. This corner would already be attached. And then I would just continue doing that so until I had the length of my Afghan, because I was joining on the long side here. So I would join here and I would kind of keep working. Then I would go to the second row and I would work this, what would be this square here. And then on this square, I would join along this edge here and the bottom. Got it? So it kind of, you're able to stack them like dominoes and join them. Can you join motifs with a single crochet and then go over all the joining seams with another stitch so the join looks 3D? Yes. There are a couple of different seams that you can do that really create kind of raised or like even the squiggly lines. It's kind of like surface crochet. So you could kind of slip stitch them together and then go back over it, working into the slip stitches themselves. So that's what I would recommend doing. Slip stitch them together and then into each individual slip stitch, use that as a base of a stitch. I wish I had something close to me where I could show you when I did that. I know that there's a class on Annie's Creative Studio that just came out that's called, I think it was Blossom the Gnome. I think that was the one where I actually went into the slip stitches and kind of joined and worked from the slip stitches. Was it that one? It might have been another one. I know that I've done a class. Listen, I've done hundreds of classes at this point, but I know I've done a class where I use slip stitches as a base and then I went into the slip stitches and built off of that. Think of slip stitches as your chain and you can just kind of grow from there. It can get a little difficult. It's a little more challenging of a stitch, but you can do it. I have faith. I have faith. All right, I think that's all the questions. I'm scrolling just to see. Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are the sweetest. All right, I think we're good. Cool beans. All right, friends, I hope you had fun. I hope you had a lot of, I don't know why I started that sentence then, I can't remember. But I hope you guys had fun. I hope you take some classes from me, from Annie's Creative Studio. It's so much fun to be able to crochet, and it's just, it's my favorite thing in the world. So, oh, I remember what I wanted to show you. Hold on, I'm gonna go off camera. So, all right, one more thing. For all of you that stuck around, you get a little bonus. Here it is. So this is the Chili Penguins blanket. I think I showed this before. This is another join as you go method. Now this is exactly what I showed you with the red one, this guy here. It's almost exactly the same. The difference is I did chain spaces, and then you simply single crochet into the chain spaces. So you get this really cool, I'm gonna move out of the way so I can show you. You get this really cool lattice. Isn't that cool? And it's so easy. This is like, I know you're looking at this and you're like, Ron, what the heck? This is so easy. And look at this. This is the one where I did the surface crochet. So you don't sew these feet on. What you do, here you go. What you do is you actually crochet into the loops that you leave there. So you don't have to, like, you honestly don't have to weave in any of the ends or anything like that. You crochet the feet on the motif after you've completed it. It's amazing. So, okay. That was the last one. Francis says it's so adorable. It is. I absolutely love that thing. It is so cute. It is, yes. Buy the pattern, take the class. It's wonderful. You get the pattern free with the class. So sign up for Annie's Creative Studio. You're gonna love taking that. It was so much fun to do. It's so easy. I can't even tell you how easy it is. It looks so much more difficult than it is. I love it. Okay, all right, friends. I'm gonna go for the day. I'm hungry. I need to eat some lunch. All right, I'm gonna have a nice smoothie because I'm hot. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a whole lot of fun. We'll do this again next month, probably. It's a routine now. And yeah, make sure you leave a comment with some things that maybe you'd like to see me cover. If you guys want to see me do different kinds of seams, if you want to see me, you know, show you how to do a really cool motif, whatever. We'll figure it out. Tell me what you want to see. Until next time, friends, have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, y'all.